Hello, Scott Telek, author of This Within, the Arthurian book series that everyone is talking about. And we're continuing our reading of Sir Thomas Malory's Morte d'Arthur, and we're up to the thrill of chapter 7, where everyone finally faces that Arthur actually will be king. So let's get moving.
And at the feast of Pentecost, all manner of men tried to pull at the sword that would try, but none might prevail but Arthur. And he pulled it out afore all the lords and commons that were there. Wherefore all the commons cried at once, We will have Arthur unto our king. We will put him no more in delay, for we all see that it is God's will that he shall be our king. And he that holds against it, we will slay him. And therewithal they knelt at once, both rich and poor, and cried Arthur mercy, because they had delayed him so long. And Arthur forgave them, and took the sword between both his hands, and offered it upon the altar where the archbishop was. And so he was made knight of the best man that was there.
So at Pentecost, again, no one else can pull the sword, but only Arthur can. And what happens here that's important is that the common people, that's what they mean when they say the commons, what they mean is the people that are not royalty, they're not knights, but they're peasants and they're workers. They demand that Arthur be made king and not put to any more testing. And the reason they demand it is because it's God's will. God himself wants Arthur to be king. And so the common people all kneel to Arthur and ask his forgiveness that they made him delay. And of course Arthur, being a cool guy, forgives them at once.
And so anon was the coronation made, and there was he sworn unto his lords and the commons, for to be a true king, to stand with true justice from thenceforth the days of his life. Also then he made all lords that held of the crown to come in and do service as they ought to do. And many complaints were made unto Sir Arthur of great wrongs that were done since the death of King Uther, of many lands that were bereaved lords, knights, ladies, and gentlemen. Wherefore King Arthur made the lands to be given again to them that ought them.
So Arthur's made a knight and then coronated as king. He has to swear to be a true king and stand with true justice, which in this case probably means fair, loyal, just, and faithful to the people. Then you'll notice there's a little interlude where he has to resolve all these disputes that have come up in the time since Uther was king, and most of these disputes involve land ownership. Arthur sorts out all these little issues and gives the land to the people who ought to have them, which I suspect is a little bit easier said than done.
When this was done, that the king had established all of the countries around London, then he let make Sir Kay seneschal of England, and Sir Bodwin of Britain was made constable, and Sir Ulfius was made chamberlain, and Sir Brastias was made warden to wait upon the north from Trent forwards, for it was at that time the most part the king's enemies. But within a few years after, Arthur won the north, Scotland, and all that were under their obeisance, also Wales, a part of it held against Arthur, but he overcame them all as he did the remnant through the noble prowess of himself and his knights of the Round Table.
Then Arthur assigns roles to people in the court in making Kay his seneschal, or the head of his household, as he promised his father he would do. He makes Ulfius the chamberlain, the person in charge of the court's finances. Brastias becomes the warden, sort of a watchman or guardian, and Bodwin, whom we haven't met yet, is made constable, highest ranking officer in the army. And then there's a little section that looks forward to the future, talking about all the territory that Arthur will control in the future. This is just a little peculiarity of this writing, that sometimes they flash forward into the future or go back to revisit the past. So that's all it is, nothing to get hung up on. Alright, now let's go to the next video and talk about chapter 8.